grace and peace and life and joy be with you today. For you are a much loved child of God. As Christians living in this world, where does our loyalty belong? That's another question addressed in Jesus' last conversation with his disciples. We read about it in John 17, verses 15 and 16, where Jesus is praying, "I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but I ask you to protect them from the evil one. They do not belong to the world, just as I do not belong to the world." This is the word of the Lord. And my thoughts begin with that question of how do we fit into this world? We're made up of so many different identities, some combination of parent, child, sibling, boss, colleague, employee, acquaintance, friend, neighbor. Balancing all of those can be a real juggling act. We are also both citizens of this nation and citizens of God's kingdom. Sometimes we struggle with that tightrope the most. The two require and expect different things of us. They have different, often conflicting priorities and goals. For some people, the answer is to keep the two separate, compartmentalized, never allow matters of state into the church, and never let the church stick its nose into issues of the state. Others seek to distance themselves from the world, live apart from it. Jesus' words suggest a third option. Live in the world, just don't belong to it. We can hold to our identity as a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, as described in 1 Peter. You can do that and still be mixed in with the world, just as yeast that leavens bread or salt that flavors a meal. It's not easy to straddle two worlds. Being neither quite in nor fully out of the world can be very uncomfortable and sometimes quite lonely. And it needs that protection for which Jesus is praying. For the world will always try to pull us toward its goals and priorities. We belong to God, not to this world. But we need to live in this world, not be taken out of it. For this is where God has placed us. We won't live in this world forever, but we're here now. And right now, at this time, right here in this place, our presence in the mix can make a difference. This is where we have opportunities to make this world a little bit better. This is where we can show glimpses of God's kingdom to those who aren't familiar with it. And through our efforts, and by God's grace, a bit of God's kingdom might just come to our earth. Perhaps more of God's will be done. So be it. In The Shaping of Prophecy, Adrian Hastings writes, "Without prayer and its grounding in faith, the human city and its politics remain irredeemable. But without politics, prayer becomes a selfish ego trip, an escape from that burden of secular reality for which every one of us is inherently responsible. Prayer leads us to politics, while politics can only be saved from itself by the prophecy which has come out of prayer. My last blessing for the week. May you be blessed with equilibrium as you seek to find balance while having and living with one foot in each of two very different kingdoms. And may the blessing of our triune God, rock, cornerstone, and temple, rest on you today and always. Amen.